thank you everyone that's attending, not just here, but remotely. This is our end of year festive Global R&D. And so I wanted to make sure that, we just recapped why we're here, what the Internet Computer is about, especially for the many new people that are joining us online. So Internet Computer is the world's first world computer blockchain. And that's a very big deal. One of the cool things about the Internet Computer is that it sort of turns traditional preconceptions about blockchain on the head. So if you want anybody watching, just grab a copy of the QR code. You can browse this deck I'm giving you here in cypherspace, and that's because smart contracts on the Internet Computer can actually serve HTTP. There's no need for traditional technology to serve a user experience. Smart contracts can securely serve user experiences directly into your browser. And that's one of several game-changing capabilities of this thing. Now, there are many ways this has been enabled, but one of them, of course, is just insane levels of efficiency that have been unlocked by the underlying technology. And to give you a taste of this, I just want to compare the cost of storing this deck on a blockchain. So it costs you about 4 cents a year to store this deck on the Internet Computer. By comparison, it would cost you around $800 a year to store it on Solana. And if it were possible to upload this deck to Ethereum, it would cost you $500,000 a year. So we're talking about absolutely enormous increases in efficiency, which are very much game-changing. And unsurprisingly, we're seeing some pretty exciting growth right now. The Internet Computer blockchain earliest today was processing about 7,500 transactions a second. That's been higher. It's been up to 10,000. And that's about 750 million transactions a day, which is an absolutely staggering number. And I predict that within a few months, we'll pass 1 billion transactions a day, which will be a big deal. In order to do this, of course, the Internet Computer so far has processed a lot of blocks. I think the last count about 1.5 billion. And if you want to see more, just go to dashboard.internetcomputer.org. All right. So all of this is enabled by something called chain key crypto, which is some sort of hardcore suite of crypto technologies. And it's enabling those building on the Internet Computer to pursue blockchain singularity, where the majority of the world's services and systems actually run fully from a blockchain. And, we're basically targeting, decentralized infinity. And of course, that's where DFINITY gets its name. And we invite you to join this movement. Okay, here we go. So DFINITY is one of the early original crypto projects. We actually have one of the largest teams of top cryptographers in all of tech, not just blockchain. It was founded in 2016 to pursue research, world computer research begun in 2015. We're the biggest employer of Google research people here in Switzerland, I believe. It's of course a Swiss not-for-profit foundation, and we have research centers in Zurich and San Francisco, and we run remote teams all over the world. So ICP, which is another name for Internet Computer. ICP stands for Internet Computer Protocol. ICP solves a key Web3 challenge, and this is what it is. Today, you hear a lot of people saying, hey, this Web3 service is built on blockchain XYZ. And that phrase, this service is built on blockchain XYZ, is widely misunderstood. What it really means today outside of this ecosystem is that somebody has built a service on Amazon Web Services. And that's where the web serving lives. That's where the majority of data and data processing lives. And the blockchain is really just used to, maintain some tokens and store some tiny clips of data. And that means, these Web3 services can never really be fully decentralized, and they run under the control of the developers that are paying for their Amazon Web Services account with their credit card. So, time and time again, especially this year, we've seen the problem with centralized technology and centralized systems. That's where the hackers go. That's where the regulators go. That's where the censors go. That's where the vested interest goes. And our solution is to put the world on chain, right? Everything on chain, no centralized tech at all, everything just built on a world computer blockchain. The internet computer, here is kind of be considered schematically, and down the bottom you've got these things called node machines, which are dedicated hardware. They run something called Internet Computer Protocol, which of course is where the word ICP comes from, and they combine together to create the internet computer, which is the first world computer blockchain. And that hosts something called canister smart contracts, essentially blockchain code. So it's enabled by moon math, and the purpose is to create a blockchain that can essentially replace centralized IT entirely. Of course, one of the aspects of the internet computer is that these smart contracts can serve HTTP. They can process HTTP requests and actually serve user experiences directly into users' web browsers without an intermediary. And that makes it possible to create end-to-end Web3, and it's one of the most important superpowers of the internet computer. Since you can now build services entirely end-to-end on the internet computer blockchain, that means they can be updated by DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And there's a framework you may have heard a lot about called the SNS, and that's a kind of DAO. And that's a big deal because in the end, it means users can become owners and part of the team that runs these services. Another key technology you may have heard about is chain key signing. And that makes it possible for smart contracts on the internet computer to create signed transactions that run on other blockchains, which essentially enables multi-chain without trust. You can actually process tokens on another blockchain without first transporting them, wrapping them using a bridge. And for those of you who've been following the news, bridges have been hacked for more than $1 billion this year. So that's a big deal. Thousands of Web3 dreamers are now using this platform to build just about everything you can imagine. So something else I'll just mention quickly, the the internet computer blockchain runs under the control of a decentralized governance system called the network nervous system. And it's a kind of advanced down. It's the only blockchain in existence that's self-updating. Instead of having, a sort of cartel of insiders, if you like, that coordinate everybody in the ecosystem to upgrade, this permissionless DAO accepts proposals to upgrade the protocol and then pushes them onto these node machines that run the network. A question that regularly comes up is, what kind of network model does the internet computer use? Is it proof of stake? And the answer is no, it's actually something called proof of useful work. So, the network's hosted by dedicated hardware, these things called node machines. And rather than those node machines doing something like hashing, in the case which you see in traditional proof of work, they're actually replacing that with useful smart contract computations, which they're held to processing in some measure. So all of that is driving the efficiency of the internet computer. And, we believe that in the end, the internet computer will be more efficient than traditional IT. So that's something I hope everyone can, get behind in this world of climate change. And, think about a blockchain that can actually be green in the sense that it can actually reduce the carbon emissions of tech generally. So let's just try and visualize quickly the magnitude of these efficiency gains. This data comes from the 29th of September, so it's changed a bit, but essentially the same. Okay. So on the left, we're visualizing the cost of storing a gigabyte of data on Ethereum. On the right, that smaller box is the cost of storing a gigabyte of data on Solana. Ethereum is 650 times more expensive than Solana. So now let's zoom into Solana and compare it to the internet computer. There you go. So the internet computer is actually 23,600 times more efficient as measured by cost than Solana. So these are huge, huge game-changing improvements in efficiency. So one easy way of thinking about this is, what would it cost to store a phone photo on the blockchain? Well, on the internet computer, it'll cost you about 1.6 cents. On Solana, it costs you about $400. So again, very big differences. And it's not just about the photos. And you might, store a file on a decentralized file storage network. It's about dynamic data too, like the kind of data that you need to create a social network newsfeed. So ICP is making the impossible possible. And that's a big, big deal. So question, can we create decentralized social media where smart contracts process every message and user profiles, hold and send crypto assets like a wallet? Answer, yes, we can. Question, can we create decentralized exchanges with the same functionality as FTX that host every crypto asset on Earth? Answer, yes, we can. And, I invite people to go and look at some of these things that are running entirely from chain. So, thousands of developers are now building, and, sometimes they're producing things that are completely new. Sometimes they're creating decentralized analogs of things that already exist in the Web2 space. I think back in September, we ran scripts measuring the number of GitHub repos, and we found there are more than 3,000, many of them very recently active. So there are a number of independent parties that now claim that the internet computer is the most active developer ecosystem in blockchain. And of course, these developers are building things that drive usage of the internet computer. And in the last 4 months, usage of the internet computer has grown 550% as measured by the increase in the number of cycles being burned. And, we're pretty unique in being the only blockchain that's growing very rapidly during this crazy crypto winter. Just finish up by saying that, this is in some ways about more than just Web3 and blockchain. There's a saying that software is eating the world, and I would agree, but it's also that smart contracts are going to eat software, right? Because smart contracts are a superior version of software, right? They're tamper-proof, they're unstoppable, they can be autonomous, they process tokens. It's not just Web3 that can run fully on chain. It's also Web2 and IT. Cloud services this year will cost the world about $500 billion. The world will spend about $5 trillion on IT generally, and about $172 billion on cybersecurity. And when you consider that smart contracts don't need to be protected by a firewall, you can begin to see quite how disruptive this can be. You can learn more at internetcomputers.org. There's a lot of content, across the spectrum from not very technical to very technical. So for everyone here connecting, we ask for your help driving ICP awareness. It's not that big right now, and I think we're sort of 0.1%. Imagine where we're going to go when 99.9% of people are aware of the internet computer. And come with us on this exciting journey and help the internet computer and world computer generally to succeed. All right, last, thanks. That's it for me.
Thanks so much, Dom, for this inspiring speech, introduction about the internet computer. So now let's see how far we are towards building that. I mean, the internet computer exists, you can all run on it, but of course we want to rule the world, and so it has to become much bigger, much faster, and so that we can really run all of IT, all of Web 2 and 3 on that. So yeah, let's go and see some of the highlights where we are towards that. And actually, in preparing that the next few slides, I looked at a few of those sessions, end of the year sessions we did through the last 4 or 5 years. And sort of what struck me is every year the sort of amount of work that we had done was really mind-boggling. And also what sort of struck me, every year the amount of how the thinking had changed about our thinking about the internet computer, how we would build that, was also dramatically how much that changed. I won't go through all of that, but let's just, next slide, please. Look at the progression for the last last year, this year, or maybe a bit of a peek into the next year. So please, next slide. Again, so as we all know, like last year we've launched, we were keeping the network alive, and a lot of the focus was first on launching, but then also on really keeping the network alive. We had like 5 people, 24 hours staring at the logs and dealing with incidents. We had bugs that we need to iron out. But also we already made some initial performance improvement, made the internet computer better throughout the last year. What we also started to change, I mean, early last year, we were really much building things out between ourselves at DFINITY. And certainly when we launched, we had a community, we had developers that we could interact with and that we started to interact with. Next slide, please. And that sort of continued this year as well. And I guess, although the incidents luckily were reduced by about 60%, still running keeping the network alive, dealing with incidents, still a reasonable amount of work that sometimes we forget easily, but it's a lot of work that the foundation spends on expanding the internet computer, just the hardware, the network itself, and keeping it alive. Despite of that, we have a lot of performance improvement done this year. We introduced some new key features, and I guess we really became much more focused on developers and the community. And I have like another slide just giving you a bit of an overview. I don't have time to really go through all of that. And I think for next year, you already saw how Dom talked about how the increase we saw 550% in the last 4 months, and Ivanan will present some statistics as well. If we extrapolate the last few months, and next year it's really gonna explode, and sort of the key features, again, we talk a bit about those as well. They will be unfolding next year. Scalability and performance will be a major topic as well that we need to address, and some new features. So next year is really going to be a very exciting year. Okay, let's look at the highlights. Next slide here. And really, I mean, if you look at this, and these are just really the highlights for all of the teams grouped together in some categories. And I mean, unfortunately, I won't have time to go through all of those. But you see, there's a lot of stuff on there that we did this year, and already this is like a really key achievement that we did, and I'm very, very proud of the team about that. Just let me pick out a few of those. So for performance, we started to do deterministic time slicing. So a canister, a smart contract can run as long as it wants across different blocks. Before that, a canister was limited to run just within the limit of a block. That was a big change, and we'll keep working on that. It's going to be a huge thing. Then on the stability and security, a lot of there as well, but maybe the biggest, at least the one that lets me sleep much better is canister sandboxing. Since like on the internet computer, essentially you're running malicious code or potentially malicious code. Hopefully we don't run malicious code, but it might be, right? And so it's very important that these code instances, these canisters are separated from each other. And so we've introduced that this year. We've done a lot of work around the governance and the ledger, how the NNS people interact with the NNS, a huge change throughout this year. Again, too much work has been done to mention, but maybe the highlight, in my view, one of the highlights is like the token standard, where we, together with the community, finally agreed on a token standard. You might say it was a bit too late. It should have done like at launch already. But here we are. I guess we catch that up, and now everybody's happy that we have a token standard that everybody can use and interact with. I guess looking at developers, we did a really great job this year in having sample dApps out there, documentations, and what I hear from the community is has become much easier to develop on the internet computer, develop dApps, and we're going to do more of that next year as well. It's really just our transformation towards an organization that is much more minded towards the external world, towards the community, towards developer and working together with developers. Finally, but certainly last not least, I mean, you might have seen that as well. The website or how we interact with forum on Twitter has changed dramatically as well this year. Internetcomputer.org is essentially a year ago was the ICA's website. Now it's the website of the Internet Computer, has a ton of documentation. It's really has become a very beautiful, very informative website. So let me talk about a few highlights nevertheless. And we have talked about chain key signing a lot already, but somehow I think I want to give a special focus on that. More of an example of how great this team is. And I mean, to a testament of what Dom had mentioned, but that we have like the biggest team of cryptographers, computer scientists in the industry. And I think this is an example that really only this team can pull it off. So chain key signing is really like an unstoppable, secure, decentralized signing functionality. So a smart contract can securely sign with respect to a public key that it can get from the Internet Computer. And many people think, well, that's easy, right? We know digital signature since I know 40 years or something, right? And signing that takes a few hundred milliseconds at best. But actually doing that in a secure distributed fashion is far from trivial. And if you look at the state of the art in the literature, there was a paper, Gennaro et al. From 19. So that's the state of the art in literature. But if you look at it, I mean, it's no robust. If parties drop out, it would not be secure. It uses unrealistic timing assumption. So you could not use that in the real world. And making this useful in the real world, you need to solve many hard cryptography and computer science problems. So for instance, nodes can drop adversarially, they can withhold messages or message come too late. And every one of these is a serious problem. Then keys need to be backed up, right? I mean, if a subnet goes down or the network goes down, the keys are lost. You can't lose keys where people store their or use Bitcoin with, right? So that also needs to be tackled. Then it needs to be integrated with the Internet Computer as a whole into a full protocol stack. Otherwise, it's also not usable. And we've done all of that, and still with the same speed. So it's as fast as the state of the art, but much more secure, practical, and actually runs in the real world. And still it can be optimized. We can scale it horizontally. So we've just seen the beginning of that. So also here, I'm very proud of the team that we could pull this off. And I think it's hard to really appreciate that unless you're like a hardcore cryptographer, right? And so that's why I tried to convey some of that. Next slide, please. Because also we've talked a lot about SNS and chain key signing. I just did, right? But so these are seeds we planted this year, and they will really bloom next year. And if you think about GK signing, it's just one of the pieces, but we'll see the Internet Computer becoming like a blockchain hub where you can interact with other blockchains. So chain key signing means that you can now hold assets from other blockchain in a smart contract on the Internet Computer. So you can do that for Bitcoin, right? So in Bitcoin, we made the UTXO set natively available. For other chains, we can have HTTP out calls to interact with those chains. And also what we probably have not talked enough about is search engine optimization, which actually now allows you to build smart contracts that you can find on Google. So you go to Google, enter your smart contract, looking for a smart contract, you'll find it, you can run it. So you can build front ends to other blockchains on the Internet Computer. Second one we've mentioned already a couple of times as well. So SNS also here, I think we can't, we have no idea how successful this is going to be. We've seen some of that as the community got excited about SNS1, which was really just the test of an SNS. And imagine how excited people will get about, having a DAO as it was meant to be, running fully on chain, controlling smart contracts fully on chain, how they can do decentralized funding, decentralized development. It's really got to be the cornerstone of DeFi, SocialFi, GameFi, and Web3 on the Internet Computer. Next slide, please. So that's it from me on the state of the art on development of the Internet Computer. And I guess also just to visualize how much we have achieved this year in terms of numbers, I want to hand over to Ivanan for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Hi, everyone. My name is Ivanan. I'm leading the P2P and systems research teams here at DFINITY, and I'm happy to present some numbers to you. On the next slide, you see how much we've grown with respect to the number of canisters. And when I first saw that, I was like, wow, more than a factor of 10 more canisters now than in January. This is amazing. And this is mostly due to all the cool dApps that you developers out there have been producing. So thanks. This is amazing. But it's not just the number of canisters. On the next slide, we see that also the amount of data that is stored in these canisters has been growing a lot. And we've overcome the size of the Ethereum blockchain this year. And this is especially noteworthy in the sense that everything that is stored, or most of the things that are stored on Ethereum, they are just sitting there. They're not being used because most of it is just historical data. However, the data that we have on the internet computer in the canisters, it's mutable. It can be changed and can be used for whatever you want. So really nice. Now we are at 2 times the size of the whole Ethereum blockchain. And on the next slide, we see that it's not just data sitting there, but it's actually being used. So here you see the number of messages that are being processed on the internet computer. And unfortunately, we only have this detailed data for the last few months, but it was really interesting for me to look into how these things are actually being used. So we see that in addition to just growing in general, one of our features that is unique to the internet computer, the fact that you can have messages being processed for every block. At the moment, most of the people use the heartbeat mechanism for that, but in the future, I think this will be replaced by the global timer feature that has been released for Rust already, and hopefully will be integrated in Motoko soon. So I expect that we will have a lot more of these in the future as well. And for the update calls, so the messages that actually change the state that is being stored on the blockchain, there more than a quarter of the messages come from other canisters. So we're not just building isolated smart contracts, but they are actually interacting with each other, which I think is really cool. And on the next slide, you see that all these canisters, all these messages being sent around also leads to a lot more cycles being burned. Especially in the last few weeks, we've seen a tremendous growth. I guess this is mostly due to new dApps like Hot or Not, but also the SNS1 sale. So also here, thanks to the community for actually leading to these great numbers. I'm super happy to see that. On the next slide, this is one of the numbers that we've seen already. While working on all the cool features, we've also invested a lot of time in increasing the robustness and stability by adding more metrics, more logging processes for handling any incidents that happen on the internet computer. And here, big thank you to all the people who have been working on this, either by preparing run books or being on call. Luckily, this year, we've had a huge reduction of the number of incidents compared to last year. And this frees us up to do more of the cool R&D stuff. And hopefully this will then lead to even more canisters and more cycles being burned. So I think we're on a really good track here. Last but not least, this is my favorite number. So far, we've always been able to have the ICP ledger being functional, and this is a huge achievement. I am very proud of this. And this has happened despite all the features that we've been launching. As you know, we release a new version at least once a week. On the next slide, you see that since Genesis, we've had 125 IC Internet Computer Protocol changes, and on other changes, they would be called hard forks. And yeah, despite all these changes, the ICP ledger was always fully functional. So with that, I'm happy now to hear about all the cool dApps that are running on the Internet Computer.
Thank you, Ivanan. Yes, we're switching gears to the community demo, and these are the reasons why we are building all of that, why we are working so hard. And, you know, like if you think about what we're going to see now are all smart contracts, right? And if somebody told you, hey, this is a smart contract, you wouldn't believe them, right? You would, I mean, think, okay, that's somewhere on Amazon, whatever, it's a cloud service. No, but these things are running on the Internet Computer. These are smart contracts, and you can interact with them with your browser. So later tonight, I invite you to go and try them out, all these social dApps that we're going to see tonight. Really exciting stuff. So I'm happy to hand over to Bernie, who will talk to us about signals, explain what that is, how it works, and hopefully we'll all be sending signals on this dApp later today.
So thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Bernie and I'm the founder of Signals. So I actually started building Signals during the Supernova Hackathon, and I've been working on it full time ever since. So Signals is really about trying to create meaningful connections between individuals, communities, and businesses through their shared geography. So I think we're living in a time of massive technological connectivity, and yet the data shows that people actually feel lonelier than ever. And speaking from experience about the communities that I've lived in, I think that we also have massive social problems occurring at the local level, which centralized governments appear increasingly unable to resolve. So at the moment, Signals is a location-based chat application. It allows you to leave a signal on a map for others to find and interact with. But what we've built so far is really just the start. And ultimately, what we want to do is find ways for communities to benefit democratically together from the economic activity in their area. So as I mentioned, we have these huge problems in society, but we also have radical new software, and with it, I think the opportunity to dream really big. So part of what we're trying to do at Signals is build the tools for people to connect with one another and those around them, first of all, but further than that, to use decentralized technologies to solve their own issues and rebuild local communities, i.e. through the formation of community DAOs, localized decentralized refi projects, map-based Web3 loyalty cards and offers, ticketing, and perhaps community-based coins and tokenomics as well. So I'll show you how the app currently looks. Here you can see a map of the world. If I encourage you to as well go and check this out. I've heard that the frame rate via Zoom isn't great, so if it's a bit jumpy, apologies. But here you can see that people have been leaving signals all over the world, and if we jump to London, we can take a closer look at some of those signals. So there are so many signals now that we display only the most recent ones by default. But we've recently added search functionality so that you can search within a given region and apply different filters to that search and retrieve all of the signals within that bounding box. So if I search here for chats just within the last 24 hours, I can see these are all the ones that have been left in this part of the map. And I'll just open one up to show you an example of the chat signal. So we've seen the chat signal. People have used it to ask for local recommendations and to make friends. I've seen that some people in Nigeria have actually met already through signals. You can also search for events and trades, for example. I'll show you another example of an event signal. And then if you want to add your own signal, you can click this plus button in the bottom right. You drag this marker to wherever it is that you'd like to leave your signal. You choose which kind of signal that you'd like to leave. In the future, we'll add more types. And then you just fill in the details of whatever message it is that you're trying to leave. But what I'd really like to take the opportunity to do today is to dive into a bit more of the technical details. So this is a simplified overview of some of the architecture that we're using. The signal data and the asset data, so images and videos, are stored separately in different types of canisters. The signal data stores a URL link to the asset data, which is served via HTTP from an asset canister. So the default configuration when someone uploads a signal with assets is that those assets are stored on a canister controlled by the signal's dApp. And these canisters are scaled horizontally as necessary by an orchestrator canister. And since we're paying the storage and computing costs for these, at the moment we impose compression and size limits on this data so that we can scale at a reasonable rate without burning through cycles, which I think would make it prohibitively expensive to scale. However, since the signal data just needs to save a URL of any associated asset, and the saving of signal and asset data is separated client-side by the front-end canister, users can configure the app to save media instead to a user-controlled canister, as long as it implements the same interface. And we're working on being able to provision these from within the Signals app itself. So in this way, a user can store as much data as they like without the same limits or compression, and they can own that data to use across different applications. Now, I think that's part of the true value proposition of building on the internet computer, is that through user-owned data, Signals can provide an interface and a useful way to interact with your data, but a user is also free to use it elsewhere, and we can develop plugins or additional features if you want compatibility with other platforms. And I think this, in the long term, tends towards a much richer ecosystem for everybody. So far, we've focused on building a scalable architecture for the assets, because obviously this type of data hits canister limits much faster. We're working on a similar architecture for the Signals data itself, but of course, this is a lot more complex since this data needs to be indexed so that it can be searched geographically. We've recently implemented, as you saw in the demo, search functionality to identify signals within a given bounding box region based on their latitude and longitude. This functionality is super important for us because it provides the basis upon which we can begin to scale other parts of the system. So we're working on a Signals data orchestrator, and this will index signals based on their lat long and perform a bounding box check to determine which geographical canister to place that signal within. Our plan to scale that data is that these geographical canisters have the ability to partition into smaller bounding boxes as they fill, and then to re-index with the orchestrator. Finally, we also have what we call the mixer canister, and this acts like a kind of recommendation engine / cache to surface a blend of default signals, which is a mixture of the most recent signals, the highest rated signals, and perhaps in the future, boosted signals, which would be a paid service, which has tiered pricing based on zoom level. And I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to just race through our roadmap and some of the things that we're also working on. We're currently working on the ability to add friends and a feed view so that you can stay up to date with the signals which are most relevant to you. We'd also like to introduce payments into the application so that you can tip signals that you found useful, pay for boosted signals, and provision user-owned canisters as well. And I think this is the first step in beginning to monetize a totally new form of content, which is reviews and curated lists. And finally, we'd also like to add a DAO signal amongst many other new signals we'd like to add, which people can launch from within the app so that communities can begin to self-organize. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for having me. Please go and try out the app. You can find me on Twitter as well at Signals ICP, and I'd love to hear just any feedback and questions that you may have.
Thanks so much, Bernie.
Thank you.
So see you everybody on signalsicp.com later today. And also thanks, Bernie, for building such a great bunch of canisters, smart contracts for this application, and bringing people together. because you've touched on I think, a very fundamental possibility here of like what people dreamt up about peer-to-peer social networks, where people actually own their own part in a social network and somehow communicate from these own parts with each other. And now on the internet computer can really do that, because every user can have their own smart contract, their own caster that holds their data and that interacts with all the other smart contracts, and thereby builds the social network. So now from London, we go continue our journey throughout the community and go to Portugal. And we will be hearing about Seers now, as we had a bit of issue with the communication stability to Lisbon. This one was pre-recorded, so please enjoy the video from Marcio.
My name is Marcio. I'm the founder of Seers. Thanks for inviting me. I have a master's degree in computer science in the area of logics, epistemic logics. I'm also a PhD dropout. I did 3 years of research in automata for verification. But then I wasn't really happy about the state of scientific institutions. So I decided to drop out and join the Web3 movement. I joined Polkadot, and I worked there for over 2 years as a core dev in Rust. Then I decided that I wanted to create my own dApp. More specifically, I wanted to create a social network. So I started to do research in different blockchains to see which one was more suitable for that. I knew that Polkadot wasn't. I tried Nair and I tried Solana too. Then I found the Internet Computer, and I fell in love because it's the fastest one and it has a very nice SDK. And you don't have to deal with IPFS. So it's really like, I think it's the only choice if you want to make a decentralized social network. So I decided to build Seers on top of the Internet Computer. What is Seers? Seers is a Web3 social network. It's going to be decentralized. We're going to use the SNS solution created by DFINITY. We're going to be very connected to Twitter. We share the same interface, and we have a bridge in order to transport all the information between Twitter and Seers. So we are planning to have a very symbiotic relationship. Also, we want to make it federated like Mastodon. That means that different DAOs and communities are going to be able to deploy their own Seers instance and be in fully control of it. Also, we will have an Opera graph like Lens and many crypto futures, of course. Right now, we support the transfers of ICP by just making a post. And we have prediction market also with ICP. Soon, in a few days, we're going to add transfers of Bitcoin and prediction markets with Bitcoin. In the near future, we're planning to add NFTs to enable the creation of DAOs. So the main idea is that from every tweet, you are able to interact with a different smart contract. We plan to make artificial intelligence an important part of Seers. Right now, we already implemented a chatbot that is making a lot of funny replies to every user post. And some statistics of Seers, we have thousands of users and hundreds of posts every day. And also we have hundreds of ICP transfers, mainly because of the prediction market. Some of the problems that we want to solve with Seers, basically, as everyone knows, social media is in control of very few people, mainly corporations like Facebook. Twitter now is in control of Elon Musk. And I think I really like Elon Musk, but I think that he shouldn't have so much power over so much information. Other problems of social media are there is a lot of spam, advertising, many bots trying to scam you. Users don't really own their data. And everyone is being moderated by the same rules and by one centralized entity. There is a lot of content, but not much quality, and it's very hard to have a rational discussion and make progress on important topics. So basically, you are not in control of your digital social identity. We want to change that with Seers. So some of the solutions that we propose, as I said before, Seers is going to be decentralized. Every community is going to be sovereign. That's very important. We are going to open source very soon. Every user is going to be able to customize the interface, especially the feed. And with only one account, they are going to be able to access a universe of social dApps. For instance, we can have connected to Seers sub-network dedicated to research topics, and another one dedicated to prediction markets, maybe another one like OnlyFans. Everything connected to Seers and exchanging information between them. We also plan to use tokenization and artificial intelligence in order to empower creators and improve moderation and content quality. But the most important part is that we want to decentralize everything. Now I'm going to make a small demo. I'm going to show how by just making a post, we can send ICP to somebody. For instance, here in the top right corner, we can see someone posted happy birthday Luch and send him one ICP. And it has 4 likes because everything can be liked and shared and commented. In the bottom, we have another tweet that is a prediction market, and users can make predictions by just making one click. And in the left side, we have a user asking to the artificial intelligence to make a joke about blockchains. And the artificial intelligence replies, why did the blockchain cross the road to decentralize power and revolutionize the economy? And I think it's a very good joke. We can see that it's very similar to Twitter. We have a feed with a lot of posts, images, prediction market, that are tweets. And let's make a transfer. So we just go here. Send one ICP, and we just need to press post, and it's done almost instantaneously. And now I'm going to show, and you can delete the post if you want. Now I'm going to show a prediction market. Today we have a match of France and Morocco. And we can participate on it. So if we think that Morocco is going to win today, we can deposit one ICP by selecting Morocco. And if we are right, we get as a reward 2 ICP. So I'm going to do it. It's very quick. All the transfers can be seen in the wallet. Thanks everyone. Have a happy Christmas and happy New Year.
So yeah, please go and try it out yourself. There's still a few soccer games, World Championships up, so you can go on Seers and gamble some ICP, hopefully win some of them. If you go on Twitter, you see a lot of, if you're on Twitter in the ICP bubble, you see a lot of Seers messages already. So I think it's a really cool thing there. Yeah, next up is Distrikt. This is special for a few reasons. First of all, they're actually in-house today. I guess that they're doing the presentation from an office, but they'll come down later here. Second, they're special because it's probably one of the first community projects they sort of picked up on a demo that we started to do internally, which we called like linked up, which was they took that idea and built it out to a very nice application. And third of all, this demo was picked by the community. So we did like a competition or a poll on Discover, which we will talk about later on as well. And Distrikt was the one chosen by the community to be presented. So how cool can we get? Please, Andra and Robert, take it away.
Thank you, Jan. Hi, everyone. My name is Andra, and I'm the co-founder of Distrikt. Today, I'm joined by Robert, our head of product, and we're very happy to have been nominated by the community for this demo. For those of you that don't know much about Distrikt, it is a Web3 social media network that lives 100% on-chain, which is made possible by the unique capabilities of the internet computer. So Distrikt's mission is to empower users to take back their privacy and sovereignty in this digital landscape that compromises their rights on a daily basis. Distrikt doesn't know anything about you, does not collect any personal information, and does not track you in any way. If you want to sign up, you can do it via our web app, or download both the iOS and Android applications from the app stores. Another thing I'm very eager to talk about is how we're going to see Distrikt owned and controlled by its own community in 2023. With the development of the SNS, we are very close to that goal. So next year is building up to be very exciting for both Distrikt and the internet computer. What I'm most excited to talk about before I let Robert do the demo is our next releases. We are pushing hard to roll out new features before the year ends. I'm talking about discoverability of popular content, accounts, hashtags, and of course, polls. You guys have requested this feature, and we're doing our best to roll it out ASAP. And in January, of course, we plan to have another exciting release and open the platform for viewing without needing to log in. Yes, I know, but okay, sorry. And of course, the next year's roadmap contains more exciting work for us. It's focused on user governance, the implementation of districts, and the decentralization and tokenization of these districts themselves. But let's move on to the demo. Enough of me talking. I'll pass the mic to Robert, and he can walk you through the Distrikt platform.
Right. Hello, everybody. Without further ado, let's jump over and share my screen. Okay. Those of you who've seen Distrikt already will actually recognize this straight away. For those who haven't, I'll skip through a little bit and give you a bit of an indication of what we got in front of us here. What we can see, obviously, is the home feed. On the home feed, I can literally see everything that's posted by people who I follow. So we've got old Cat Pirate here doing his thing, various other bits and pieces. And as you'd expect, you can interact with posts. I can go along, here's one I wrote earlier. I can sit there, I can write a comment and say, right, let's go with the demo. And of course, what comment would be complete without a random animated GIF in there? All right, we're hitting the demo. So where are we? This is the home. This is my feed. This is all the stuff from all the people I follow. What about people I don't follow? Well, people I don't follow, there's a wonderful thing called the stream. The stream is everything that's posted on Distrikt. It's literally a stream of consciousness. It's in reverse chronological order. The newest thing at the top, as you'd expect. Great place for picking up people to follow. Okay. We are adding some extra features here, as Andra said, which unfortunately I can't show you yet because our developers are busy hacking away trying to get them all finished off in time for Christmas. But we'll be adding extra filters, extra ways to sort of filter this list, look through for pictures only, etc., just to try and find all these cute little cat pictures and find the things that really interest you. How do I know if people are actually interacting with my posts? Well, I've got notifications. So for example, I can come through here and, oh, here we go. Looks like somebody's already liked my comment. Let's go with the demo. There we go. Lovely. Nobody's replied to it yet. So I'm just going to sit there and wait for Andra to come and reply because she's a little bit behind with the demo. We can go back to the notifications. You can see we've got notifications for all sorts of things. You may have noticed a mobile app button up in the right. Get the mobile app. We do have native Android and iOS apps. We don't have push notifications yet. They will be coming, but we do have pull notifications. Literally, we regularly poll and send out notifications if you have got. Thank you, Andra. If you've got a message. And of course, messages. We have messages, direct messages. I'm not going to show you my direct messages because obviously I've got some personal things in there, and it would be unfair to the people who are actually writing messages for me to show it publicly. This is live. This is my feed. And yes, we forgot to share the slides, but we did the words, so we forgot. Another thing we've recently implemented, obviously, is replying to replies. What would you expect if I reply to Andra? She's tagged automatically. Never mind. I know we forgot the slides, but never mind. Somebody opened the door and completely threw us off balance. So what have we seen? We have seen comments. We have seen the feed. We've seen the stuff. We've seen the blitz. We've seen everything. I'm going to go back to my notifications. I'm going to mark them all as read. Sorry, folks, if anybody's just written anything, I will go through them all again and look through later on and see what's going on. Now then, next thing, some stuff we've done recently actually applies to profiles. And some of the nice things we have in profiles, for example, is I can get rid of this nice little picture of me and I can say, you know what? I've got some pod NFTs. Just to re-emphasize, we only support pod NFTs with the NFT dashboard at the moment. Cool thing is though, pods have got helmets and pods. And I can go and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to save that. This is just for me. I'm going to set this as my profile picture. This is now basically going to be, we go back here again. This is basically what we call the droplet form. This is my PFP. This shows that I own this pod NFT in my NFT dashboard. And it's kind of a real proof of ownership. It's a proof of real thing. So let me go back quickly and show you one more thing, which we did recently. I am writing a thread. That's only 4 things. But we can write threads up to 20 posts. We can, of course, add in images. We can share content. So I can literally go through and I can share content. You'll see it here. You'll see a preview. You can go and view the whole thread. You can interact with all the different posts in a thread. You can share on an individual post from a thread. Not much point in showing that as I only just wrote it. Back to the profile before we run out of time. There's my PFP sitting there looking marvelous. One other thing which we need to really mention is experience. So I've got my activity here, but we've got a great opportunity here for you to actually start profiling yourself. Start talking about the things you've done. You can add projects. You can collaborate with others. So you can see, I've added a project here, Distrikt. Cassandra, our head of design, added a project. She tagged me as a collaborator, so I can actually feature that on my profile. If you look at my profile publicly, you'll see this is featured as well. What else can we do? We can add milestones. Here's a milestone. And the milestone is going to say, did a demo. Bang. We can actually add all sorts of more stuff in here, and we can add in collaborators here on milestones as well. I'm actually literally just going to add this to make it simple. We've got validation. Look at that. It was today. I did it today. Bang. And if I want to, I can then go ahead and I can literally go and I can pin that. Not edit it, sorry. I can pin that to my profile. Anybody goes and look at my profile, they're going to see literally there at the top is a demo pinned. Okay, one last thing I want to show you on profiles, because this is very useful, is that we can go and we can edit info, and you'll see I can add my birthday. I haven't done that yet. Promise I will do. We can add external wallets. Why external wallets? We've actually had projects asking us if they can airdrop to Distrikt users or to their followers. So what we thought was, well, we can make it easier for you to help yourself doing this. So you can, and I suggest you set up a completely new empty wallet for this in every case anyway. so that nobody can track your transactions. You can literally go along and you can take, let me just go and grab a wallet address. Here's one I prepared earlier for fans of children's television. Go and grab this. You can literally paste in an external wallet address. It's going to be my primary wallet. You can save it. That wallet's going to appear on your profile. We've had some feedback about this, that people aren't necessarily very happy about it appearing. We will be adding in a show and hide switch so that it doesn't necessarily appear on your profile. But the cool thing about this is, if I'm following somebody, they can go along to their followers list. They can hit this button here, and they can export a list of all their followers as a comma separated values format, together with any external wallet addresses they have entered and the type of wallet, which gives them a perfect list for starting to build a list for airdropping. You can also go to individual followers and say, look, check out the wallet address. Art hasn't entered one, but that's okay. Alrighty, now.
Do you think we have time to show them the polls? We haven't really released the stitcher, but it's done in staging and our devs just finished it today. So it's hot out of the oven.
Let's just jump over here. Right. Polls. Polls is one of the things we're launching soon. So you'll be able to go along and you can basically go along and write a post. Instead of writing a post, you can say, right, what do we like? Well, choice 1. This. Choice 2. This. Double clicking. And choice 3, up to a maximum of 5 choices. Now, here's a cool thing. We can allow multiple answers. So I'm actually going to say there are 3 choices, but you can answer multiple. You can choose multiple. So it's not just one option on the poll. I post that. I've now created a poll. And there it is. And I can literally, in this case, I can choose more than one option. So you can see we have the type of poll below, where we have the normal standard 1 vote. And we have a new type of poll where literally we can actually have multiple answers as well, which is going to be very useful for the people who can't decide, or people who want to give options.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andra and Robert. You guys are really spoiling us with all these nice new features. So I'm looking forward to interact with those features and the whole crowd down here. And I'm even looking more forward to have drinks with the 2 of you and everybody else down here. But before we do that, we move over to the West Coast and have with us Discover. Discover visited like a few weeks ago back here at the DFINITY headquarters. We had a lot of fun together and celebrated their 150,000th user. So big congratulations on that again, and over to you, Rick.
Cool, thanks for having me. Can you guys see my screen all right? Awesome. Yeah, so Discover is going to be releasing a stats dashboard. It's still in testing. We're just trying to make sure we're pulling over the data correctly and everything looks good, but you can see we're up to 165,000 users now, 1.6 million posts and comments. And you can see we're hitting 11,000 daily active users, plus or minus at this point. We saw 101,000 monthly active users, which is a big celebration for us. We've got, over 1 million comments. Upvotes are almost 8 million. We've had almost 3 million tokens tipped at this point, and average time on site, people are spending about 15 minutes. As far as NFTs go, these are like linked people who've actually linked some sort of NFT to Discover and decided to set it as their profile photo. So we're seeing about 25,000 of those with about 1,600 portals at this point created. We're seeing a drastic increase in portals and communities starting to spin up. So we're going to be continuing to release more community building tools from that perspective. As you can see, this is the general site. I think a lot of you've seen it at this point. You have your basic post, you can interact with it. We have the ability to translate the post into whatever language you set. We have all sorts of types of tipping. SNS one tipping is actually very, very, very close. But you know, you have your baby A roof, which I still need to know what an A roof is. But you can just tip it and it automatically adds it to the top. This all happens completely on chain. We have a canister watching the transaction logs and then taking the tip amount and splitting it actually between the site, the portal, and the user. So if you have a portal and you have tipping, you're going to be earning a % of all the tips that have coming in. And we've been slowly paying those out as we analyze the data. And this is obviously you're logged in as my account, so you can see the users who have actually commented on this post. So you can get a quick insight on what they're saying. And we have different types of filters to allow you to see. I want to see who I'm following and who is commenting on these posts. We've been integrating with the SNS1. So it's really been interesting to figure out how these APIs actually work. How do we interact with these canisters? So this is automatically read off of the proposals from the SNS, our SNS1. And you can see they come in, users been tipping these. So if you're tipping the proposal bot, no one really has access to that account. So those tokens are lost in some way, but maybe we can, maybe we should just give all those tokens to the SNS1 portal itself and build up a treasury, which is something we've been thinking about. But we're trying to break down what is a proposal, what is the information about it, what are the different actions people are trying to take. We're trying to make sure that other communities and other tools that are providing voting will always be listed here. So you'll always have an alternative way to vote. Open chat right now is the only alternative. I think you could probably do it over the NNS now. I can't remember. But yeah, this is what basically a poll looks like, or a proposal looks like. You can accept and reject it if you have your hotkey bound to the site. We have more analytics, and we're trying to pull in more. So if you have recommendations of what kind of data you want to see here to kind of give you an idea who's voting and what kind of voting power is available, which is really interesting with the SNS1, the largest voting ballot is at 51 voting power. So the average being about 0.71. So if you think about it, like of the 2,500 voting power, most of them are individual users who can actually vote. So that's super interesting. And you can vote right on the site. We're getting more data about who the proposers are. Within inside of your airdrops, you can actually view your neurons. So you have the ability, so this is a neuron that's actually bound to Discover itself. So this neuron has the ability, you have the ability to actually manage the neuron from Discover, which is coming very soon. And these are hotkey neurons. You can see through the orange key on the right side that these are neurons that I've provided a hotkey in the NNS for the SNS. And I can create proposals directly on Discover as long as I meet the minimum criteria for creating a proposal. And of course, we have all the different fungible tokens that we support, including the SNS1 token now. And we have obviously tons of different NFTs on Discover. I think at this point in time, we have 250 different supported NFTs within the wallet, with about 543 total coming. We finally have all the different APIs put together, so we'll be releasing that relatively soon. Again, proposal creation. We're going to expand on this quite a bit to try to figure out what are all the different actions that can be created when creating proposals. And the goal is to actually genericize this framework. So if you're familiar with SIGDAO and all the activity that's been happening, how do you actually vote within SIGDAO from Discover? How could you actually do that? And that's something that we've been experimenting with quite a bit for the site. And you know, some of the things that are coming up is SNS governance. We're going to continue working on that, but with R&D in 2023, we're looking at portal governance, trying to figure out how do you actually create polls within portals to start driving decisions. How do you Volt as a treasury? So like you have all these tokens flowing into these portals. So how does the portal actually manage a treasury and vote on those things? Creating posts that be converted to something more dynamic. So like post-creation process on Discover is going to go through a complete overhaul, where it's not like a bunch of different choices. It should be dynamically you should be deciding what the post is by just typing into it, and it dynamically deciding what that post should look like. We're looking into like PPV for portals. So somehow to pay for access to actually enter a portal. And we're trying to look at is that a monthly fee or is that a one-time fee? And what kind of optionality can we give to portal creators? We kind of believe SocialFi is watered down DeFi. So like, how do we bridge the gap between DeFi and SocialFi, and what does that actually look like? So we're going to be experimenting heavily with that in 2023. And algorithms with transparency. Like, why am I being shown this content? Like, why is this content being surfaced into my feed? And we think we can create strong algorithms using social graphs and different feed algorithms, but giving the transparency to the user on what kind of activity they have been having, which surface this content to them. And of course, we have like the hot portals section on Discover, which we're going to continue to work with, as well as sharing and posting content. And finally, I want to give a shout out to IC Inspector. IC Inspector is a tool if you're a developer on the IC. It's been a huge improvement for us to be able to actually inspect the page, analyze the payloads and responses to better understand how our APIs are actually working and how other APIs work, so that we can bring them on to Discover. And I know I say this all the time, but if you're a developer and you have an integration idea for Discover, we're more than happy to hear it. I think at this point in time, we're excluding NFTs. We're probably integrated with 9 or 10 different IC projects. And we want to expand that in 2023 drastically, so that we can build more features and focus more on building better social tools for Discover itself. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rick. Yeah, thank you to you and your team for building this great app, for jumping on the SNS1 bandwagon and giving us a glimpse into how massive SNS will be next year. So I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen with all of that. Thanks to all the presenters, all the social dApps building on the internet computer for their great work. Thanks to the community, like all the other devs that we have no time to probably ever acknowledge all of them in all these global R&Ds. Thanks community for being here with us tonight, this year, and all the next years to come. So with that, I close the last global R&D of 2022 with a hint towards the next one next year. So merry holiday seasons, everybody, and how you say in Switzerland, gute Rutsch. Thank you, everybody.